All right, Skinny, let's get right to it. Lots to cover. First of all, it wouldn't be a Bengals opening week without some contract drama, and that includes this year one Jamar Chase. Everybody and their brother is wondering, will Jamar Chase be on the field against the New England Patriots? What's your take right now as we sit here a couple of days before the week one opener?
All right, so I'm of the ilk that a deal doesn't get done, but it could. I don't think it's an impossibility, but I don't think a deal gets done. So then the ball goes into Jamar's court. And I wrote this over the weekend. I kind of laid out why Jamar wants the extension now, why the Bengals don't have to do a deal now, what should happen and what will likely happen. I don't even know if Jamar knows the answer, Mike. And I don't know if you think the same way that I mean, let's just say this deal is not done and we get to Saturday night and he calls Zach Taylor and says, I want to play tomorrow if possible. Or maybe he just sticks to his guns and simply says, you know what, this is the leverage I got. I'm not playing until I sign. I don't want to risk injury until I sign. And I honestly don't know if he even knows the answer to this yet, Mike.
Yeah, it's a great point, Skinny. And unlike situations like T. Higgins during obviously OTAs and even minicamp, he was not technically under contract. Jamar Chase is under contract, and that is the difference that I think a lot of fans need to take into account here. Now, it is hard for me to conceptualize, even imagine a guy, even a superior athlete like Jamar Chase, getting up and hopping on the field on Sunday and playing legitimate NFL regular season snaps.
Yeah, I mean, you hear it all the time. There's in shape and there's football shape, right? And he's a freak athlete. That part's a given. And I've joked about this when this started back in July that, he could roll out at 12:55 and make the decision on Sunday, September the 8th to play and still go out and ball. And I believe that, but you do also risk the injury factor, right? You haven't got yourself up to any game speed at that point. You haven't taken game speed reps at that point. And I think there is a big difference. You maybe don't take those in practice either, but you at least come darn close. Certainly in those joint practices, you sure do, or at least come darn close to that. And he hasn't done any of that stuff. So then you risk that possibility as well. And this is a guy that wants a contract because he fears injury would wipe out the potential to have that big contract. There are both sides of this, and this is where everybody wants to take a side. Like, Jamar, you're under contract for 2 years, you have to play. I understand that side, but I also understand the side of the Bengals of, no, we control you at this cost where it is right now, and we risk if we guarantee you money, you getting hurt, and we get stuck with the bill when we didn't have to. So I just think it's a very complicated circumstance, and to your point, he would be the one rare exception to that, but I don't think you'd see him out there for 100% of the offensive snaps either. I think you'd see him out there on a partial basis.
Absolutely not. And I don't think there's anybody who would expect that. I don't even really, in his heart of heart, think that Jamar Chase believes that. Here's my take on this. If the Bengals want him long-term on their roster with Joe Burrow, you get the deal done now because it's only going to cost more and more as we move forward. And there are exceptions to every rule. I know what the rule has been with Mike Brown and Katie Blackburn and the Brown Blackburn family. I get that. I actually respect it a great deal. But when you're in business, there always comes along cases that make sense to make an exception to the rule to get the most out of your business. To me, Jamar Chase is that exception.
Yeah, I'm going to give two to that. The Athletic did a really good piece, Mike, where they surveyed, I think it was 31 different agents about various things, and the wide receiver market was part of that. And one of the agents' takes, and they were all done anonymously, was that he thinks the wide receiver market has plateaued, that it's peaked out, that it's not going to raise the price of the Jamar Chases of the world if you don't do it now. And I think there's some truth to that. I think at some point teams are simply going to go, no, we're not paying for that position this amount. I do think the other part to the Bengals is I think they draw a line in the sand of this is what we think you're worth. We're not paying above that, no matter what you think you're worth. And hence that's where I think where we're at with this. It's, Jesse Bates thought he was worth a price. The Bengals didn't. Jesse Bates then went elsewhere.
And I'm going to jump in there, Skinny.
Yeah.
Because there are people who would say, well, they didn't think Jesse Bates was worth the price, and it hurt them last year. It significantly hurt their chances for even going to the playoffs.
Would they have been able to sign Orlando Brown, though, if they had done so? That's the other part. You got to look at whole entire roster construction, too, right? This is the contracts that are coming for some of these guys. And let's just say Jamar Chase gets done and Joe Burrow gets, you're going to be on the hook for about $240 million of guaranteed money. And let's just take the nuclear option of these two guys suffer catastrophic injuries. How do you roster build from there?
Well, you don't, but that is part of the risk you take when you're running an NFL franchise. I mean, that certainly is a legitimate chance that could happen.
Yeah, but you don't have to take that risk for another year, another offseason. You don't have to take that risk right now if you're the Bengals.
You do. And to me, this is the heart of the matter. Do you want that player playing for you this year? Because Mike Hilton made reference to this, and I was in the group of reporters last week, and he brought up the name, and he was a teammate of this player, Le'Veon Bell. And Bell was prepared and did sit out a season. Is Jamar Chase willing to sit out a year?
That's a great question. Only he knows the answer to that. I think he would be, that if he's saying, listen, I'm only risking $1 million in base salary. I've already got my roster bonus. Now they could probably find a way to go ask for that back. But let's just assume they don't do that route, that they just, he just doesn't get a game check when the game checks come. I think he'd be more than willing to forfeit $1 million in base salary when the long-term gain in his mind is $100 million guaranteed from somebody at some point.
Yeah. These are discussions that fascinate me on one level, but if you're a fan,
I get it.
It's infuriating.
Yes,
because
indeed.
Do you not want to, as a franchise, you have this window with Joe Burrow. Do you not want to make the best run at winning your first Super Bowl? If you're the Patriots, Chiefs, 49ers, Cowboys, whoever, and you're in this position, you have a cachet of Vince Lombardi trophies in the case. You have that already. And you can, I think psychologically with your fan base, you come from a different point. With the Bengals, you don't. You were almost there 3 years ago with Burrow in Super Bowl 56, but you didn't get over the hump. You didn't reach the top of the mountain. Now you have another chance with the best roster that you have had in terms of versatility. You do have T. Higgins. He's been terrific in camp. Get Jamar Chase done. And I think your offense and your potential rises to that next level.
I'm going to give you a precedent that you may not want to set if you're the Bengals, and I'm sure we'll move on to some other topics.
Yeah, we will.
Amarius, let's assume Amarius Mims pans out in the best way possible as a player. Right. And he's into year 3, and the Bengals choose to put the 5th-year option on him, pick up his 5th-year option, which they've done with Jamar Chase. And Amarius Mims going into year 4 says, no, wait a minute, man. I'm the best right tackle in football. I want to be paid like that. You already did that with Jamar Chase. Do they do that then? I mean, how many more players do you capitulate to? Does Trey Hendrickson maybe see this and go about week 5 and say, I got a little owie here. If you guys want to give me some more money,
Here's my answer to that. Jamar Chase is his own separate case. And Jamar Chase is someone who can take your team along with Joe Burrow to that next level, to the ultimate level. Can
Justin Jefferson do that?
I think with the right quarter, if you put Justin Jefferson on the same team as Joe Burrow, absolutely.
That's
no doubt about that.
The thing with rookie contracts, though, Mike, that's so important. It's the thing with rookie quarterback contracts, right? Is it allows you to roster build around that. Well, you're able to roster build around a rookie contract for Jamar Chase at a controllable cost. And I'm sorry, if the player doesn't like it, go to your union and tell the NFLPA, let's get this crap done differently. Let's do 2-year contracts and do this different. Let me get to my second contract faster. Maybe that's the answer, but it is collectively bargained that here's the 4-year rookie contract. If you're a first-round pick, they can pick up the 5th-year option. If they want to go another step, they can tag you 2 more years.
I'm not a player honk, okay? And
I know that.
And I understand.
And I appreciate both sides on this. I do.
Yeah, and I don't normally take the player side because if you're under contract, you're under contract. But Jamar Chase has said, well, screw it. I'm under contract, but I'm not going to play.
I get it.
That puts the Bengals in a very difficult position.
So we're in the game of chicken. And Mike Brown doesn't blink very easily in the game of chicken.
No, he never blinks.
Yeah.
Can you remember a case of him blinking?
I really can't.
No.
I mean, told Carson Palmer, go retire, man. You want to quit? Go retire. I'm good. I mean, they didn't blink with Andrew Whitworth. They didn't blink with Jesse Bates. I don't
They
know
don't
if they blink
blink.
here. I just don't know. I hope they do. I hope Chase's side, wherever the money is, they come down to the level the Bengals feel comfortable. But I don't know where that is. Is that in Justin Jefferson territory? Is that in CeeDee Lamb territory? Is that more in Amon-Ra St. Brown territory? I don't know where that territory really is.
Mike Petralia, Trags here, host of the Code Reds and Jungle Board podcasts on CLNS Media. I want to tell you about Prize Picks. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. One Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss the deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as few as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your picks are still live. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, we do have a game to talk about.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Thank God. Against a team. Hey, Skinny, did you know this? I used to cover the New England Patriots.
No, how long?
I think it was 26, 27 years, something like that. 6 Super Bowls, something like that.
Was Ron Meyer the head coach?
He was not. And you know who else was not the head coach? Dick McPherson.
That was another good one.
Yeah. So I believe Dick McPherson was the last coach before Bill Parcells arrived on the scene the same year I arrived on the scene, 1993.
You've covered a couple of good ones up there for sure.
So this is a new era in Patriots football, and that is, of course, Gerard Mayo, the head coach, former linebacker for the Patriots, now with only 5 years of coaching experience, being promoted by Robert Kraft and the Patriots organization to head coach. They are not starting their rookie quarterback, Drake May, their number 3 overall pick in the 2024 draft. They are starting Jacoby Brissett, a one-time teammate of new Bengals captain Jermaine Pratt. How about that?
That's pretty good.
I was going to get into the captain stuff, and I still will. We still will, Skinny. But I want to talk about 2 players who will be on the field, Dax Hill and Trent Brown. Both were appointed starters by Zach Taylor officially on Monday after practice. Your thoughts on Dax Hill winning his battle and Trent Brown being appointed to take over for the injured Amarius Mims?
Yeah, I think about week 2 of camp that was trending in that direction, right? And it felt like it was trending more and more towards Dax. And certainly as camp was winding down, it almost seemed like he had a stranglehold on that starting job. I do think you'll see some DJ Turner. I don't know what role that would be. Is it to take some snaps off of Cam Taylor-Britt, to take some snaps off Dax Hill, to add another corner on the field when you need to add another corner? But I do, and Zach made that point yesterday, that DJ is going to play and have some kind of a role. But and I don't think this is as much. I think this is the good part. I thought DJ Turner had a good camp, Mike. I don't think this is as much DJ Turner losing the job as it really was Dax Hill going out and winning the job. And I think that's a good thing.
And I also think, Skinny, not that he didn't have to go out and win the job. He did. He had to demonstrate his ability to cover on the outside. But I think it behooves the Bengals for the future of Dax Hill for however long he's going to be in Cincinnati to have a starting role that engages him fully in the defense, as opposed to coming off the bench as a role player in that secondary.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think to your point, I don't think this was given to him by default. I think he actually, to his credit, went out and won the job.
Yeah, and I think what the Bengals are expecting from this secondary, no question in my mind, they are expecting more creation of turnovers. That is something that certainly was lacking last year. And even you go back a couple of years, they haven't created a lot of turnovers. I think back in 2022, they were something like +6, +7, which is good. But I think Zach Taylor and company expects this defense, engineered by Lou Anarumo, to create more turnovers. And I think Dax Hill has the potential definitely of doing that, certainly with Geno Stone back there. Your thoughts on Trent Brown? Is he, and I had a friend of mine from New England joke about this, is he really going to be able to make it through whatever it is, 70 or 80? Or back a couple of years ago against the Steelers, remember, it was 100 offensive snaps. Jamar Chase played every single snap. Is Trent Brown going to be able to make it through the game on Sunday? I think it's a legitimate question.
I don't think he can. In fact, we do a thing, just for full disclosure. Those of us on the beat, we have some individual in-game. We call it bean pools, or like dollar wagers on different things. And I joked with a couple guys yesterday at practice. I said, we need to have the first time we see Trent Brown puke as one of our bean pool wagers, because I mean, no, to answer your question, Mike, the good part is it's not going to be 92 degrees with 90% of humidity, because I don't know how you would do that. I think the good news is, and we asked Zach this yesterday, and he gave us hey, we'll see how the week progresses. And that's the fair answer to what the question was about, Amarius Mims. He obviously named Trent the starter. I think that's more, again, Amarius' injury putting him back. But I do think we do see Amarius Mims in some way, shape, or form on Sunday getting some snaps. Maybe he doesn't progress this week, but he's been back out there the last few days doing some stuff in individuals. We don't get a chance to see the full practice right now. We don't get a full practice report till Wednesday, tomorrow. Right. And I would assume he probably would be limited. I think the good thing would be, if you don't see him on the injury report at all, that he does go full. I think that would trend towards, I don't think they'd fully split the reps at right tackle, Mike, but they might. And at the very least, you'll see Amarius Mims in there some. If again, we'll see how this week goes. But even if not, is it Jackson Kirkland? Is it Cody Ford? Somebody's going to have to spell Trent Brown. They're just going to have to.
Well, I think it'd be Cody Ford. Until I see Amarius Mims doing sled work, which obviously all of the offensive linemen do, I'm not convinced that he'll be clear to play.
Fair. No, that's fair.
I mean, he's got to be able to punch.
No question.
And the punching is obviously probably how he strained his pec and why he's been sidelined. And there's in my estimation, there's no reason to put him out there and risk with a high degree of probability re-injuring himself. Is Cody Ford able to play a serviceable right tackle? I think so. I mean, people are going to say, well, it's Joe Burrow. You don't put Joe Burrow out there with Cody Ford, right? I disagree. I think they have enough confidence in Cody Ford that he can handle the job at right tackle without completely endangering Burrow's health.
Yeah, and the other part too, Joe Burrow sees that side of the field, right? I mean, that right tackle, he can kind of adjust a little bit more than you can from the guy coming off your blind side. So, would you want Cody Ford to be a stonewall? Absolutely. But even if he isn't and has some slippage and doesn't perform 100% or 90% or whatever, I think Joe Burrow is able to mask that because he can see it coming.
Okay. We have seen role reversal maybe a little bit in the NFL with the Patriots' one-time great offensive line and solid offensive line in front of Tom Brady really taking a hit. And the Bengals having a much improved offensive line in the last 2 to 3 years, obviously. The Bengals need to be able to get after Jacoby Brissett. That is a non-negotiable on Sunday.
Agreed. He's really good, I think, at getting the ball out of his hands quickly, though. The times that the Bengals have played against him in different places, Indy, Cleveland, I've always admired him for doing that. I think he gets it out of his hands. He's got some mobility to him as well. But you tried to upgrade yourself at the interior pass rush, and I think this is a good time to see what it can do against a weaker offensive line. Can Sheldon Rankins get consistent push? Can he and BJ Hill work in concert to do that? And then you know what you're kind of getting from the outside guys. So yeah, I do. I think to your point, I think this is a precursor to see, is this pass rush better than it was last year, because it needed to improve.
I also think this is a really good opportunity to see the potential of Chris Jenkins Jr. Because against this kind of offensive line, it sets up for him to really demonstrate his freakish athleticism that we've heard all about ever since he was drafted, ever since we heard the nickname, the mutant, saw those incredible workouts on YouTube and whatnot. This is a chance for Chris Jenkins, I think, as the third defensive tackle in. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, no,
Third
for sure.
defensive tackle in to, really, if not get to the quarterback, be disruptive, blow up their run game. And yeah, I was there. You were there, right, in New England, Christmas Eve, or were you not?
I was not. That was one game I did not go to that year.
Ramondre Stevenson. Thanks to Von Bell,
Yep,
who will be on the field on Sunday. Von Bell forcing that fumble on Christmas Eve and handing the Bengals a hang-on 22-18 win. It was the last time these two teams met. The Bengals have to be able to stop and control Ramondre Stevenson on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine that's what New England wants to do as much as possible is run the football, shorten the game a little bit as well. But yeah, to your point, Ramondre Stevenson, when he's healthy, has been a solid back. And and listen, you talked about the pass rush. One of the other negatives last year was the run defense, and this is a good test to see where the run defense is right off the bat.
Mike Petraglia, Trags here, host of the Jungle Roar and Code Reds podcasts on CLNS Media. Well, there is nothing quite like the thrill and excitement of taking in a football game live and in person. Some of my favorite memories when I was growing up was when my dad would take me to a Miami of Ohio game at Miami Field or a UC game at Nippert Stadium. Well, now there's a great app that helps you get the best tickets at the best prices. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. They have lots of great features. Curated deals make it easier to find the best prices on great seats. They have something called the Super Deal. They have seat views before you buy and lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection, all great features that make the Game Time app very, very unique. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Trags, Mike Petraglia here, host of the Jungle Roar podcast on CLNS Media. Well, there's no doubt about it. We've had our fair share of hot, humid, hazy days this summer. And the last thing I want to do on a hot, humid day is worrying about preparing a meal. Well, there's an answer for that. Fuel up for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet your wellness goals in time for summer thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. Crush your wellness goals this month with dietitian-approved meals and ingredients that you can trust. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Head over to factormeals.com/Bengals50 and use code Bengals50. That's BENGALS50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off next month. That's code Bengals50 at factormeals.com/Bengals50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
Your thoughts on the 8 captains? We had, I think, a surprise in Jermaine Pratt being named a captain. We mentioned that a couple of minutes ago, but Jermaine Pratt's a captain on the defense, along with, not surprisingly, Von Bell and Sam Hubbard. On the offense, it's Joe Burrow and 2 offensive linemen, Ted Karras, who returns as captain, and Orlando Brown Jr., and then the special teams captains, Evan McPherson, along with Akeem Davis Gaither. It's an interesting, eclectic mix, Skinny.
Yeah, some of those guys are holdovers, but there are 4 new captains. Pratt's a new captain, to your point. He's been in the league now 6 years, and I guess that took me a little bit by surprise. But in the locker room, he's pretty well respected. He's very vocal on the field, sometimes maybe too vocal,
Absolutely.
but very vocal on the field. Teammates really respect his football intelligence, and I think all those things wrapped into the package to have him voted as a captain. The 2 special teams guys are both new captains. Akeem Davis-Gaither, he talked about how proud he was because his dad's a coach, what that meant to him to be a captain. His dad's a college coach at Virginia, an assistant coach. Evan's the one that interested me, and I asked Evan this yesterday. I said, for a guy so quiet and reserved, how did you become a captain? And I asked Zach the same question of how surprised are you that a guy that quiet and reserved? But I think it talked about, Evan said to us, a couple of us had talked to him yesterday about this, of how he likes to be the guy to kind of set a positive attitude and be a guy that people come to when they have something, that he's not as vocal, rah-rah, yelling, calling out a teammate, more of a guy that people can come and lean on, and a guy who kicks him or has to play in really pressurized situations and to do his job. You think that's leadership as well, as just going out and doing his job and doing it well. So yeah, he surprised me a little bit, but 8 captains was the most they've ever had. And I think that Zach Taylor felt they were all deserving of it.
It may seem like a little thing, but when Evan McPherson was starting to build up Ryan Rico late in camp about he's done such a great job just getting the ball down, and I'll take care of the rest. It's a very little thing, a small statement. But to me, that's kind of what we're talking about. That's why Evan McPherson is endeared by his teammates and why he was elected a captain.
Agreed. And listen, that lets Rico know that I don't have to be perfect. And listen, Darren Simmons will get on him for trying to be perfect, and he'll work towards that.
Right.
But I think it allows him, though, to not have to freak out about, was the ball leaning a little bit this way too much, a little bit that way too much. To Evan, just get it down. Now, listen, as time goes on, they want to refine it. They want it to be more perfect. But I think he gives a kid like that less pressure, because he's worried about punting too. I mean, he's been inconsistent punting. When he's hit him a mile, but he's been inconsistent. So now he can focus on, all right, my holding duties is I just got to get it down, because Evans told me that's all I got to do is get it down, and then worry more about punting.
And let's move on to one of the other captains that kind of intrigued me, Orlando Brown Jr. First time in his professional career that he's been elected a captain, and he made note of that with me on Monday afternoon. And you could tell, I mean, sometimes guys they say the right things. They say some of the cliches about what it means to be a captain. But when he started talking about what it meant to be a first-time captain in the NFL and having been around so long, it struck me as like, this actually really means something to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that we go to a lot for quotes. I think there's something to be said about the leadership of that at times. That in losses, who are the guys you go to, right, Mike? I mean, we have our go-to guys, right? There's the go-to guys that win or lose are going to treat you with respect. And I get the guys that don't want to talk after losses. I no skin off my back. But I think some of that's leadership too. And I think teammates see that. And certainly he's a big man and commands a lot of respect just from his physical stature.
I think his dad would be very proud, don't you?
I agree. Absolutely.
And do not think that thought didn't cross his mind either on Monday afternoon. Anything else you're looking forward to in this season opener with the Patriots on Sunday?
Yeah, I think the last thing, Mike, would be how are the targets distributed without Jamar Chase, and even with Jamar Chase? I mean, who is the number 3 receiver? Is Yoshivach the third targeted guy? Is Mike Gesicki the third targeted guy? Is it Charlie Jones? I think that's the other part to me that's interesting, because I think Yoshi kind of emerges as the third guy. Is that how it's going to play out as the season progresses? And certainly we get a chance to see it for the first time in the opener.
I'll tell you what's number 1 on my list offensively. How do they handle short yardage situations, and can they run the ball on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1?
Agreed. I think that's a legitimate point, but I think we've seen that 2 tight end package with Drew Sample and Eric all in there on running plays. I think that's where you're going to see the rookie get some snaps in some of the situations you're talking about. And I'm going to guess Zach Moss is the third, is that short yardage back for this team.
And I actually think we're going to see a lot more expected of the rookies to produce in this heading into this season. Certainly Amarius Mims probably won't play, I'm guessing, on Sunday. But when you go down the list of other rookies, it fascinates me. We already talked about Chris Jenkins Jr. You mentioned Eric All Jr. There is a lot of buildup with regard to him because I think he has had such a good training camp on an accelerated schedule. There's no way in my mind I thought at the beginning of camp he would be at this level where we're talking about him being an integral piece of their short yardage offense.
Agreed. And I think that is that short yardage package. Him and Drew Sample is a 2 tight end set, and you can play action out of that. And you trust Eric All as a receiver. I think he is certainly the best 3-down tight end on this roster. Not the best pass catcher overall, not maybe the best blocker, but the best probably 3-down tight end. And I think in the next few years you're going to see him become that guy.
The cliche we hear all the time is you never know about week one. And I asked Zach Taylor about this on Monday, and he said, week one in the NFL is always about in-game adjustments. How well are you able to adjust what you haven't what you haven't seen before? And it's a great point. He's absolutely right. But I get back to this point, Skinny. They cannot lose this game. And to me, you don't have to blow them out by 40 points, but you have to really exercise your will. You have to command your will over an inferior team. They have to do that. If they demonstrate nothing else aside, obviously, from the win, they have to be able to show that they are better than an inferior team, especially when you're playing at home. And to me, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking not only for the score, for the Bengals to come out on top, but I'm looking for them to demonstrate that they know they're a superior team, go out and take care of business.
Yeah, this isn't college football buy game for an opener, right? I mean, you're not going to have that discrepancy in points. But to your point, this is one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the NFL on paper, New England. Right. And if you think the Bengals are a Super Bowl contending team, with or without Jamar Chase, you go out and impose your will.
I hope I'm not speaking out of line here, but I have an announcement to make, and I think it's going to be a great season, an exciting season, as Skinny, the Skinny podcast, and the Jungle Roar podcast are teaming up post-game following each and every Bengals contest, home and away this year. It should be really thrilling to work with the one and only Richard Skinner. And I guess, are we going to take turns hosting and who's driving the car, captaining the ship?
We can certainly do that, but I like the way you captain the ship, Mikey. I do. I like to be the co-host. I'm not opposed to that. My ego's not so big.
Well, I appreciate that, Skinny, quite a bit. But we're going to look forward to having an enjoyable season, an interesting season. Obviously, we've already had an interesting preseason and training camp with the Jamar Chase situation. I think one thing we didn't talk about is we've gotten to the point where Joe Burrow is second or third on the list of topics that we talk about every week. I assume he's ready to go. Don't you?
I assume he is too, Mike, but I'm going to cringe the first time he has to brace his fall with that.
He's going to have to.
Yep. And it worries me.
Yeah, well, he's a football player. He's probably realizing that he's got to go through that himself. He knows that at one point he's going to get hit. He said that to us a couple of times during training camp. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Well, we've got an interesting and very exciting 2024 Bengals season ahead of us. Certainly follow the Skinny podcast. Skinny does a great job covering the Bengals for local12.com here in Cincinnati. Follow the Jungle Roar podcast. You can follow that podcast on all your typical podcast platforms, and follow me on the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/@Jungle Roar Pod. Skinny, it's going to be a great season.
Absolutely, Mike. Enjoy it and look forward to talking to you on Sunday.